You won't want to sell beats any other way after watching this video, because I'm going to show you how dozens of producers get paid $1,000 per sale, and it has nothing to do with posting content, and you don't even need placements to do this. So I'm going to show you the 5-step process to turn your beat business profitable instantly. And if you don't know who I am already and why you should listen to me, I am a Grammy-winning producer. I'm a platinum-selling producer. I've been on the Billboard Top 100. I've won the Dove Award. I have been nominated for the NAACP Award. And so if that is not enough, you can see some of the artists that I've worked with here. So I went platinum off of this record with Rod Wave, has over 70 million views on the music video. And I also won the Grammy off of this record, Holy Hands by Doe. And you can see me holding that right here. So while I'm proud of that, I have helped dozens of producers to sell beats the way I'm about to show you. The first step is going to be the philosophy side of things. And so really, these are the principles that I live by when it comes to building my business, which is less just really equals more. And what I mean by that is that a lot of producers really think that they have to do more and more. They need to go and put their music onto Spotify. They need to go and start doing streaming and placements and sync and selling beats online and custom beats. So whenever you start doing all of these different things, you're fragmenting your attention. And us as human beings, some of us can do that, and it's like props to them, that's amazing. But most people, that is going to make their business suffer, because if you think about it, human beings are not designed to fractionalize themselves. We're not designed to multitask. We're designed to do one thing and do it very well. That's why our eyes are pointed forwards, or not pointed in the back of our head or on the sides, because we are designed to focus. We are focus machines, which means you need to actually do less. And that's what my philosophy is. The second thing is, I don't want to be efficient. I want to be effective. And so what that means is that efficiency is doing all the things the right way and being a perfectionist and procrastinating a lot. Whereas being effective means that maybe we don't do things perfect or as well as we could, but we're doing the right things in the first place. And so that's going to push our business forward, even if there's some inefficiencies here and there. And so like when you're building your business and you're trying to do everything perfect, just realize that you really just have to more so fail forward if you want to eventually find success. And so that's something that I've adopted. And then the third thing is that passive income doesn't exist. So that may be triggering for you, but before you basically go and denounce this idea, let me explain this. So whenever you make money, you cannot do nothing and make money. You have to do something in order to make money. And so what I would argue is that I have a passive income stream that makes about 100 to 200 a month for the last 5 years. But I put over 200 hours into work in order to get that stream up and running, and it's made about $5,000. Well, it's like I've made $5,000 in a month, and I've worked a lot less than 100 hours. So you could argue that even with all the time I put in there to get truly passive income where I do nothing and checks roll in for the last 5 years, that it was less effective. And so there's really no such thing as passive income. You put in a certain amount of work and you get a certain amount of output. And so there's only work that yields a higher leverage than others. So you can go and put 100 hours into something that pays you $0, or 100 hours into something that pays you 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. And so I want to focus on tasks that bring in the most leverage, not quote passive income. All right, so that's the philosophy. And now let's move on to the first step. So the first step is what I call your offer. When I say an offer, that is just a beat. It could be a customized beat. It could be a lease. It could be a service like mixing and mastering, or it could be all of those things together. And so really, at the end of the day, the offer isn't the things that the artist gets, it's the problem that you're solving, because you don't want to work with somebody who is price shopping, you want to work with someone who's solution shopping. And so that's really what you want to do. You want to sell your offer as something that's going to solve their problem and price it at $1,000 or more. And so the thing is that we don't want to give them pieces, we want to give them the payoff. And so you have to be thinking through the lens of, how does this pay off for the artist when they buy it? That doesn't mean it pays off with money where they make a bunch of money by working with you. Because if that were the case, then artists would never buy beats, because almost no artists make any substantial money off their music. It needs to pay off with their creativity. And so if you can make an offer to where they know it's going to help them be more creative and it's going to solve all their problems, and they're going to be willing to pay $1,000 or more for it. So this can be a custom or a lease. And so I've had students where they have sold leases for $1,000, $2,000, or I sell it like $500 to $1,000. And some students sell customs where they'll sell it for $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. And I've done the same thing. And so the most important thing to think about is, what does the artist actually want and what do they desire? And so when you're talking and communicating with the artist, if they say, I want to release 20 songs this year versus I want one of my best songs to come to light this year, it's something I've been struggling to come up with ideas for. The first person probably is going to want a bunch of leases so they can put out more music without it being $10,000 worth of beats. Versus the secondary artist, if they're looking for something really specific, something that they can't find anywhere else, and they want to commission a producer to do it, make something from scratch, make something that fits with their vision, that's usually going to be something that's a custom exclusive beat. And so you have to know the difference between what the artist wants, what they need, what their desires are, what their concerns are, and that's when you can go and put in the appropriate offer. Now, something else that I didn't actually put in here is a service. So you can do mixing, you can do mastering, you can do cover art design, and you can add in these services so that they actually get really good deals on stuff, and it's more of a one-stop shop instead of them going to 20 different people in order to get one record out. The other thing that you want to do is what's called a risk reversal. And so what a risk reversal is like a guarantee. So, you might think money back just because that's a really popular guarantee, but it doesn't have to be money back. That's one that I've used a lot in the past, and it makes you seem confident that you're going to do a good job because nobody wants to give the money back, right? Now, the other thing that you can do is one of my favorite guarantees, which is you can say, I'm going to work with you on this for free until it sounds good. So basically, if it doesn't sound perfect by X time, then I'll work with you for free until it does. So that way they can be confident that you are going to make things right if anything goes wrong. So that's always good to offer. You just want to make sure your offer solves a very specific problem and need. You can add services and risk reversals so that it's easier for the artist to say yes. And you want to make sure it's priced at $500 to $2,000, something that's really expensive. It's not so drastic that it's impossible to pay, and it's not so cheap that you don't make enough money for it, because we're trying to make $1,000 sales so that we can quit our day job, so that we can live full-time off our music without working 40, 50, 60, 80 hours a week on this. So in order to do that, we need to get paid. And so that's why our prices are higher. Moving on to lead generation. And so this is the step number 2. And if what lead generation is getting artists into your inbox, getting artists into your email list, getting artists onto your social media, into a place where you can communicate with them. They are leading to a sale. And so the way that you want to do this, if you have a big YouTube channel or you get a lot of traffic, you can put a pinned comment, you can put something in the description, and basically push people to say, hey, if you want to work with me in this specific way, reach out on Instagram so that we can connect. So this is something that I deployed with one of my students, and in the first 5 days, we'd got $1,000 sale using that method with YouTube. Now, the other way is if you don't have a following already and you're like, I don't want to post content, you can go and do what's called outreach. And so the number one way we do that is with Spotify playlists. And so if you make a playlist with a very small artist that's independent, they're in your niche, then Spotify's algorithm is going to tell it to find other artists like that. You can also use tools inside of there called the Fans Also Like tab. And so that way it's going to give you an extra 40 artists on top of all of the hundreds that you can refresh on the list on Spotify. This is the most targeted way to find them. You can also do something called Explore Businesses. And so on Instagram, there is a category in the profile. Usually people will have a category that says producer, or it says artist, or musician band. And you can go and tap on that, and it will hyperlink its way to a page called Explore Businesses. And on this page, you can find a bunch more artists, and you can keep rinsing and repeating that process to find artists. And I've had students do this, and they've made plenty of money doing this way. They found really high quality artists this way. You just always want to start with that first artist, that seed artist, as a very serious artist that's not too big. They're not a Drake, but they're also not unserious where it's just going to give you a bunch of SoundCloud rappers. The last way is the most dependable way, is hashtags. those are tried and true. It's the way that I started, and I still have used hashtags to this day to make money. And so when you're doing cold outreach, when you're doing outreach to artists, hashtags are a great way to find artists. You just have to do a little bit more sifting through. The third step is messaging. And so if you just go and follow them, or if you just go and like a few of their posts, that's not going to be enough to make money, because they may not follow you back. They may not check out your page. They may not be interested in working with you specifically at that moment. And so the way that we open things up, the way that we drive money, is through messaging. And what I use is called messaging mastery. This is divided into 3 steps: the openers, the AA framework, and the call to action, or CTA. So with an opener, I want it to have 3 specific things in there. I want to be very specific and mention personal things about them. So like their name, maybe a song name, maybe where I heard it from. And that's going to allow them to know that it's not copied and pasted, because it's so specific. The second part of an opening message is going to be a compliment. And so if you've read How to Win Friends and Influence People, people love compliments. And so if you're not putting compliments in there, then it's just not going to really open them up to wanting to respond in a positive light. So I always try to give a compliment, and that's going to be something that leads to sales a lot quicker. The third step is to ask a question. If you're just leaving your openers or your messages with statements with periods, then it doesn't give the artist a reason to respond. But if you ask a question, it doesn't really matter what it is. They're way more prompted to respond, meaning that you keep them in play longer and you're going to get more deals because of that. After the opening message and they respond, I like to use what's called the AA framework, which is acknowledge whatever they said and then ask the next question. So instead of pitching links, instead of trying to send them beats and talk about myself, I keep all the attention on them and keep asking them questions so that we can have a relationship that gets established and they get comfortable talking to me, instead of me just pitching stuff when they're not even ready to buy yet. The third step is a call to action. And so instead of trying to send them to a site, what I like to do is get them onto a call. This is going to drive sales because I'm going to be able to personalize a relationship with the artist, instead of sending them to a site where they're just going to listen to a few beats and browse around instead of buy. So now that we're pushing them to a call, I'm going to talk over how we're going to turn this into actual sales. And that's why we have this green $ over here in the money bag, is because we want to make money with this. We don't want to just be friends with the artist and be buddies. We also want to get paid. And so at the end of the day, this is a business, not a charity, and you need to make that distinction. So the best way to be professional is going to be to jump on 2 calls. If you try to sell on the first call, that is too aggressive, and the artist is going to see you as only wanting money. If you try to be buddy with them and just get on call after call after call, then the artist is going to see you as a friend, and they're going to see you as somebody they collab with, not send cash to. So what do we do instead? We're going to do 2 calls, and the first one is a trust call. The second is a conversion call. So all you want to do on the first call is get them to like, know, trust you, and see you as a producer who's an authority in this space. That's all that you want on that call. It's an anti-sales call, and that way at the end of it, psychologically they're thinking about, you know what, I would be open to working with this producer because they seem very knowledgeable, I like them, and I feel like I can trust them to work on my next project. Now that trust is established, they are going to be open to possibly buying stuff from you. So instead of you going and telling them a price, you can just go and invite them onto a second Zoom call, but you call it, instead of a sales call, you might call it something like a preview session, a vibe session, a music advisory session, a discovery call. You can call it anything you want, just don't call it a sales call. Once they're on the sales call, there's 4 main steps to get them to buy. The first is the frame. And so whenever you're framing the call, you're basically letting the artist know that, hey, I want you to view this call the same way I view it, because if we have different definitions of what's going on, then at the end, you're not going to take the action I want, and I'm going to be frustrated because I want you to take this action, but it's not even something you're interested in. So let's just agree to a frame for the call before we even start. A good example frame is to say, hey, have you ever been on a call like this before? If they say yes or no, it doesn't really matter. You just want to say, cool, so I don't want to hit you out of left field with anything. We're just going to go through some beat ideas. I'm going to make sure that these are a good fit for you or not. And then if they are, then I can show you an offer that may solve your problem. And if it sounds good, we can just see what working together looks like at the end of the call, and move forward if it's a good fit for you. Is that fair to move forward at the end of the call if you feel like it's a good fit? If they say yes, then that means that they view the call the same way you do and you can move on to the next step. Second is to preview your beats. So it doesn't matter where your beats are. They can be on Google Drive, Dropbox, they can be on Soundy, BeatStars, Airbit. It doesn't matter. But the main thing that you want to do is to make sure that you can share your audio from Zoom so that they can hear it in high quality. Have them pick out a few beats they can use for sure if you're trying to sell leases. And if it's something that is going to be more of a custom production, then have them play through some references first, and then you'll play them beats similar to that may not be perfect, but it showcases that you have the talent to be able to produce their song. After you preview the beats and they say they are 100% confident that you can produce songs for them, you can move on to the third step, which is the pitch. The way that I pitch, I like to have pillars. And an example of that would be what I use with one of my students, Ian, who would sell $2,000 packages using what he called the virtual studio system. So in that pillar, he would say that most producers would only produce and that was it. But what he did instead is he would go and remote record. He would give them demo ideas and record an entire demo. He would mix and master the song and produce it completely from scratch, start to finish. That pillar made him stand out so much from other producers that artists wanted to work with him specifically. So you're always trying to sell the artist on the 3 Ps, which is your person, which was developed in that trust call, the payoff, which would be in the pillars that Ian provided in this case. And you want to sell them on your production, which is provided in that preview section of the call. If they're sold on all 3 of these, they are going to want to pay you money. I try to make sure they're 100% certain that they want and need what I have to offer before I let them know the price. Because as soon as you drop the price, you lose all the leverage in the negotiation. But since they're a 10 out of 10 before I even tell them the price, once I drop the price, I just want to be quiet for a few seconds and let the artist tell me how they feel about that price tag. If they say 1,000 is too much, then what I want to do is a process I call AID, which is agree, isolate, and double tie down. All I do is agree with them and say, yeah, I understand it's pretty expensive. And I isolate things and say, other than money, was there anything else holding us back from moving forward and working together? If they say yes, that means that the value is not there or the beats are not there. But they usually will say no, which means that if you figure out the money side of things, which is the double tie down, then you can move forward and get started. If they agree to that, then you just go and break down a payment plan that works for them and then move forward and start cashing out on these deals. So there you have it. That is the 5-step method to go from zero to selling $1,000 beats online. This is what I have taught to dozens of my students. So hopefully this video helped you out. And I do want to give you an exclusive offer for a free consulting call if you're interested in getting help one-on-one from a producer who has sold as much as $13,000 in a single month and helped multiple producers to make $10,000 in a single month as well. So if you are interested in one-on-one help, but you want to ask questions first and make sure this is even a good fit for you or not, you can go to the link that's in the description, or it's also in the pinned comment, and you can just go and grab a spot on my calendar. We can go and chop it up together and see if I can help you or not, or at least give you some good input. So make sure you go and grab that slot, subscribe to the channel, and if you need any more assistance, just reach out to me on Instagram at Kobe Sample Source. And if you want to watch another video that's helpful, it's going to pop up somewhere on the screen. You can go and tap that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.